Welcome to another edition of George Washington Speaks. I'm your host, Tom Saffold. In the two previous editions, we found an adolescent George Washington trying to find his way in life. Socially, he was frustrated with his lack of education, social refinement, and status, and his family's poverty. If it were not for his older brother Lawrence and his Fairfax family connections, George most likely would never have been a part of American history. The last-minute derailing of his naval career by his mother was a setback, but he persisted in trying to find a way to better himself and follow the Washington family tradition. Surprisingly, a class in geometry caught his interest, led him into the frightening and dangerous forest of Western Virginia, where the Indians still ruled. In this edition of George Washington Speaks, we will follow Washington's path into the wilderness, his experiences, and how they impacted the rest of his life.
Around age 15, I was tutored in mathematics. I copied geometry problems from The Complete Surveyor by William Laybourne, who was an English mathematician, teacher, and land surveyor. From the book, I learned lessons in geometry that taught me about how to measure land and how to place survey posts along the property lines so that people could see the boundaries of the land. His book was almost 100 years old by the time that I read it. The book showed how the rules of geometry were developed by the ancient Greeks 2,000 years before, and how they could actually be used by a land surveyor today. Laybourne began by teaching us how to use geometry. The first problems were simple and required students to use a couple of instruments such as a compass that pointed north, south, east, and west, and a ruler that measured distances. We were taught how to draw straight lines in different directions on a piece of paper that would make a square or a rectangle or even a triangle, which are all skills that land surveyors use. One of the things that a surveyor does is to take a large piece of property and break it down into smaller sites where farms or homes can eventually be built. The lessons gradually increased in difficulty, and the later problems challenged me to divide up oddly shaped tracts of land into smaller sites of different sizes. I was able to solve 17 of the problems in the test, which were assigned by my tutor. While I was studying, I wanted to take what I learned on paper and apply it to the real world.
A young George Washington took what he learned in the classroom and coupled it with real-life experience in a dangerous environment, where he overcame his fear and learned about the wilderness, increased his confidence in his own abilities, and found his courage. This experience led to his first career and influenced his life, a military officer and government servant. Join us next time for tuberculosis, Barbados, and smallpox, when Washington travels out of the colonies for the first and only time with his brother Lawrence, who is going to a warmer climate to treat his tuberculosis. After Lawrence gets worse and George recuperates in bed for a month with a different illness that killed scores of others, he returns alone to Virginia.